All right, so let's get into it because the Democrat Party just took another L and they're not happy about it. So while all of the protests continue to spiral across Minnesota, a U.S. district judge stepped in and shut down yet another Democrat attempt to force ICE out of the state, ruling in favor of the Trump administration. And Tom Homan is making it crystal clear that they're not backing down, not now, not at all. As always, make sure you smash that thumbs up button. That's how I know that you like the video. Subscribe for more content and share so that way more people see what's going on. Let's get into it.
Yeah, well, as you detailed there, Omar, the judge said that Operation Metro Surge can continue to take place in Minnesota. And this is after weeks of escalating tensions there. And as we are seeing protests across the country take place this weekend. Now, earlier this month, the state of Minnesota and the Twin Cities sued federal officials, saying that the law enforcement operation there, the immigration enforcement operation there, was a federal invasion. And they said that it was involving warrantless arrest and excessive forces. Now, this also comes as really the face of the administration's response to all of this. The Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, her future in the administration is being questioned by many. Important to note here, though, that President Donald Trump himself is defending her. I believe that we have that post to pull up for you now, but he said in part, the radical left lunatics, insurrectionists, agitators, and thugs are going after Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, because she is a woman and has done a really great job. He then later added in the post, I was elected on strong borders and law and order, among many other things. Thank you to Secretary Kristi Noem.
And so despite all the chaos that's being whipped up by the left, the courts have ruled in Trump's favor. And he's now doubling down on moving forward with Operation Metro Surge that's happening in Minnesota, ladies and gentlemen. And a lot of people thought that the Trump administration was retreating when Greg Bovino and the Border Patrol pulled out. But that wasn't really a retreat because Trump brought in Tom Homan. And Homan made it crystal clear that the operations, they were still going to continue. They were still happening. The difference being that they're looking to adjust how they handle it. More efficient, more controlled, safer. And that does matter because despite what the left wants, this isn't about chaos. The left wants chaos, but it's in the best interest of the Trump administration, the American people, and even the illegal migrants that enforcement is carried out safely and effectively. And Tom Homan addressed exactly that on Fox News, laying out why they're moving forward and how they're doing it. Take a listen.
His first interview since being sent to Minneapolis. Borders are. Tom Homan, it was interesting your comment. The president sent you there with a mission. He said, please, I don't want anybody to die. Anybody. Very clear.
Well, absolutely. The president wants to de-escalate the situation. And to set the record straight, because my staff said it's seen a lot of people that say President Trump's backing off on his promise of mass deportation. That's just untrue. My message up there was the same message that's been since January 20th, when President Trump took the Oval Office. We're going to have a mass deportation, but we're going to prioritize the arrest of criminals and public safety threats. I said from day one, if you're in the country legally, you're not off the table.
You met with Walz, you met with Fry, you met with Ellison, and Fry, after you met with him, said, I also made it clear Minneapolis does not and will not enforce federal immigration law. Okay, what does that mean? How do you interpret that? And is he violating the law by not assisting or not turning over illegal criminals that are in their justice system?
Well, here's what we have, Sean, meeting with the governor and AG and Mayor Fry. Here's what we came out with. The state prison system will honor our detainers. So we will continue to take those people in the custody of a safety and security of a facility and not have to go on the street and look for them. The AG said that sheriffs can honor our detainers, and I'm meeting with sheriffs across the state to give us prior notification. Excuse me, he didn't say they would honor our detainers, said they can notify us before they release them, and so give us time to get there and take them into custody in a safety and security facility, and we're working on that. And the whole purpose of me going up there was for this reason. the more agents we have in the jails, the rest of these people in the safety and security of a jail, it's safer for the officer, it's safer for the alien, it's safer for the community. So one agent can arrest a bad guy in a jail rather than sending a whole team to the community. And with all the hate and rhetoric and attacks, then we got to send another team for security. So what one agent can do in a jail, we got to send 15 or 16 guys to do. So if we get that cooperation, which we're working on, we got some commitments here, that means we can draw down on the number of agents there because we're in the jails. And that's what President Trump wants. He wants safe enforcement. He wants public safety threats taken out of this country. And the safest way to do that is in the safety and security of a law enforcement facility with their cooperation.
I don't even know how this is an argument anymore. Keeping criminals off of the street is somehow up for debate? Give me a break. Let's just use our basic common sense, some basic logic. The reason you want state and local law enforcement to coordinate with federal officers, because what does that actually do? It keeps the general public safe and out the way. And it allows agents to be able to do their jobs without chaos interfering, which is what everybody should want. Law enforcement officers able to do their jobs without people getting in their way. Because the reality is, the agents on the ground, they're at the bottom of the totem pole. What can they do? They don't write the laws. They don't change the laws. They just enforce them. So if people got a problem with the laws themselves, that's fine. You can have your problems. But the solution isn't to harass agents or block facilities or put lives at risk. The solution is to take the fight to Washington, D.C., to Congress, where laws are actually made. But that requires real planning, real solutions, real accountability. And that's the part they don't have. So instead, what do we get? Chaos. That's it. Nothing but chaos. And we've been seeing consistently where that leads. Look at what's happening in Los Angeles right now. Left-wing mobs surrounding an ICE processing facility, ladies and gentlemen, endangering the lives of everyone inside. Take a listen.
And breaking at 11, a dumpster fire outside the federal building downtown.
Desmond Shaw live in SkyCal, and Des, protesters were all over this area earlier.
Yeah, they sure were, Pat and Rudabay. And, you know, it seemed like things were really calming down and just about everyone had gone home. And then LAPD broke down their skirmish lines, and a bunch more protesters showed up, and they decided to ignite all of the garbage that they had thrown in this dumpster earlier this afternoon. So you see it smoldering right now. I'm not sure if we have earlier video of when it was definitely cooking quite a bit more than that. Now, one of the issues was that LA City Fire tried to respond. They claimed that the protesters were not allowing them to get in, but when we came here to the scene, we didn't see anyone that was actively trying to hamper the fire department. Still, it looks like they called for an LAPD backup, so now LAPD officers have arrived. The fire was actually extinguished with a fire extinguisher from what I believe are some of the federal officers that are actually there in front. I'm not sure if these are federal or if those are LAPD, but they went inside the dumpster with a fire extinguisher, and they managed to get the fire out. So now LAPD probably going to have to relock this area down. There was only a couple dozen protesters left of the tens of thousands that we saw earlier today. There's vulgar graffiti all over the detention center here along the walls, so I have to keep the shot kind of wide, kind of difficult to shoot all of this. So we'll see what happens now, but the fire is out, and LAPD probably going to start arresting people if they haven't already. Live in SkyCal overhead, I'm Desmond Shaw. Pat and Rudabay, back to you in the studio.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when there are no guardrails. When you let people operate like the law is optional, things escalate. They get more hazardous, more dangerous, and the threat level rises for everybody. And when you normalize that kind of behavior, all you're really doing is just you're increasing the probability that something truly catastrophic is going to happen. Because let's be honest, when you keep pushing the line and daring consequences to show up, it's not if anymore. It's just a matter of when. But now let's go to Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, on CNN, claiming everything is under control. Everything is being managed. Take a listen.
Well, I can tell you that the situation is under control, but it is ongoing. And there was a interaction that was violent for a minute but it was brought under control. First, you had the federal officers defending the federal building, and they acted in the beginning, and they dispersed tear gas. Then when it moved into the street, then of course the Los Angeles Police Department takes over. There is a show of force there, but so far they have been managing it. I think it's down to about 150 people, and they're kind of scattered around one particular intersection. So I think that it will end okay, but we are on a tactical alert right now in our city, and all of this is unnecessary. We have to go back to the origin of all of these protests. Nobody would be protesting now in the street if Minneapolis hadn't happened. We wouldn't have had protests in Los Angeles if they hadn't invaded us.
Give me a break, because if we're going to use that logic, then let's roll with it. Then ICE wouldn't even be necessary if under the Biden administration, we all know, millions of illegal migrants hadn't been allowed to pour through the southern border in the first place. Oh, and when Texas tried to step in and stop it, Biden sued the state. On top of that, if blue cities and blue states hadn't doubled down on sanctuary policies, refusing to coordinate or cooperate with federal law enforcement like ICE, and they chose instead to protect illegal aliens over enforcing the law, yeah, we wouldn't be here right now either. And so it's easy to try and lecture people about the outcome, but if you refuse to actually discuss the actual origins, then that's the problem. And this is where legacy media comes in. Time and time again, they allow Democrats to push whatever narrative they want, no matter how much is laced with misinformation. The average person turns on the TV, hears it repeated with confidence, and takes it at face value, right? It's like what happened with NBA coach Steve Kerr, who found himself walking back his comments. Take a listen.
Alejandro from Outkick.com. So going back to the situation in Minneapolis and some of the comments that were made there. So I know you had mentioned that, you know, ICE isn't rooting out violent criminals, but is instead taking 5-year-olds. Since we know that ICE has indeed arrested violent criminals, and perhaps some of those statements could be seen as misinformed or possibly divisive, what would you say to that?
You're right. I definitely misspoke, and I knew that ICE was arresting some criminals, and I think I immediately regretted it because I knew that to be the case. But my point is that they're also arresting people and detaining citizens and people who should not be being detained. And the manner in which they're doing it, as you see, is riling everybody up all over the country. And being in Minneapolis for those 4 days was incredibly emotional and powerful. And it was a very difficult time for all of us. So we, at the end of those 4 days, pretty emotional time. I misspoke, and so I apologize for the misinformation. So I hope everybody else out there who's saying stuff that's not true, please apologize too.
All right, let's talk about basketball.
You did highlight that
No. I addressed everything I wanted to address in Minneapolis, but I am glad you said that because that was false, what I said. And so I want to correct that for the record. So thank you.
And so, yeah, you seen and you heard that. And so it was good that he was able to acknowledge that what he said was false. But the real problem is, ladies and gentlemen, that it doesn't go away. Because once the message is pushed out, the damage is already done. That's the reality. None of this is about putting the truth out first. It's about pushing a narrative and letting it sink in. And when the media is finally forced to correct the record, the correction is never as loud, never as aggressive, and never as widely repeated as the misinformation they were pushing in the first place. That's the pattern. The lies get the headline, the correction gets a whisper. And the average viewer is left walking around with a completely distorted version of reality, thinking they're informed when in reality, they've been conditioned. And so let me leave you with this final clip of an American citizen sharing his firsthand experience watching ICE operate in real time. Take a listen.
ICE just drove by. They came and arrested somebody. Nobody blew whistles. Nobody boxed them in. And most importantly, nobody got hurt. You ever notice how they leave you alone if you leave them alone? Just saying.
Now let me hear from you on everything we talked about today. Drop your comments down below. Smash that thumbs up. That's how I know you like the video. Subscribe to stay locked in with the content and share. That way more people see what's going on. Until next time.